Hey Leggari Nation! On today's video, we're showing you how to install a Metallic Epoxy Floor Kit. Watch how easy the process is and how beautiful it turns out. For more info, check the description below or visit www.leggari.com to get your floor kit today.
So I'm gonna go over mixing your kits. I'm gonna go over mixing a 3-gallon kit of epoxy. Obviously, if you guys have larger floors, you'll be making multiple batches, but this will be the easiest way to break down your kit and mix it for this type of design that I'm gonna show you. So we got a 3-gallon kit here. This is gonna need 3 5-gallon buckets because we're gonna split 50-50. We're gonna do 50% of the epoxy, which would be 1.5 gallons of brass, and then 1.5 gallons of coffee. So I need 2 5-gallon buckets, and you'll kind of see why. But first thing we want to do is get our part A draining out, because that is a lot thicker and it's a little cold today. So colder it is, thicker the resin's going to be, so the longer it's going to take to drain out. So we'll get this going, and then we're just going to let these drain out until they start to slowly drip. Make sure you don't accidentally add your hardener to that until you're ready. So we'll let those drain for a second, and then what we like to do is tilt them back, get all the material that's caught in the handles, let that drain out as well, and then just let these drain for a minute or two until they start to slowly drip. Now we're going to add the hardener. Just remember, once we add the hardener, that starts to clock the amount of working time you have with the product. So make sure everything's ready. Your spike shoes, your rollers, everything you're going to need to coat the floor is ready to go. That way, once it's mixed, metallics are added, you can go dump it out right away. Once you dump it out of the bucket, plenty of working time. You just want to get out of the bucket as soon as you can. Spin off that drill so it's not dripping a bunch. Now we're going to pour this into the secondary mixing container. Take a 5-gallon stir stick. We want to get everything out that we can. All right, so now we know this is thoroughly mixed. Now we can pour half of this into another 5-gallon bucket and add our metallics. And we're just eyeballing it, getting as close as we can. Doesn't have to be exact. And I'll wipe this off so it's not dripping everywhere. All right, now when adding your metallics, it's always good to wear a mask or mix them outside. You can also hook up a vacuum attachment, just hold that as you're mixing. So we're gonna add our coffee into here. And then our brass into the other one. So I'll put on my mask and mix these up. When mixing those, so I don't have to separate or get other mixing paddles, I started with the lighter color and then mixed the darker color after that. And I also spun it fast above the epoxy to get most of the brass color off before I put it into the coffee. So always start with your lighter colors and then mix your darker colors. So this is ready to go. Take it over to the floor, and we want to dump these out as soon as we can. Do not let them sit in the bucket longer than they have to. All right guys, so I got my spike shoes on. You guys can get those off our website under single items, and that's what we use to walk on the epoxy without leaving footprints and getting our feet all dirty. It raises us up off the floor, and we're able to walk out there without any issues. So go to leggari.com, single items, and you can get your spike shoes there. Primer's been down. It's been about 45 minutes to an hour. Obviously it's dry. It's still tacky. We want it tacky when we go over it. Make sure you're going over your primer before the 2-hour mark, right? Don't wait longer than 2 hours to apply this epoxy onto your primer, or it's gonna become a sealed surface and the epoxy is not gonna bond to it as well. So if you're gonna prime, make sure you can put epoxy on it within that 2-hour mark. And then for this technique, we're just gonna be using a squeegee. I'm gonna dump the 2 colors out randomly, squeegee them around until the whole floor is covered, and that's pretty much it. Really cool technique, and it always looks awesome. The biggest thing you wanna make sure you're doing is getting the color all throughout whatever section you're coating. So pretend this is your first section of your project. Maybe you have 3, maybe you have 4 or 5 sections you're doing. Make sure you get each color all throughout that section before you run out. So I always like to kind of start out with smaller beads or veins, and then I can go back and add to them. Now we're just gonna squeegee this material around until we completely cover the floor, holding it at an angle. If I hold it at an angle, and apply a little pressure, it's always going to leave product behind. If I hold it straight up and down, it's going to pull it really tight. It's not going to leave a lot of product behind. All right, so next step, we're gonna spritz isopropyl alcohol on this. We'll let that evaporate and then we'll mist it with denatured alcohol. So we'll let this evaporate for about 10 minutes and then we'll mist the surface with denatured alcohol. So like I said, about 10 minutes, let that isopropyl evaporate and then we'll mist it with the denatured alcohol. And again, we're just misting, spraying down on the floor, just misting the whole surface.